to the regular scheduled meeting of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We'll also be sitting as all taxing districts, and this is the January 3rd, first meeting of the year. If you need anything, please contact Jonathan Lyons. This year we have appointed him to solve any problems we can't solve here. So I'll give you his number later. It will appear on the screen. All right, we got to move on. So the first thing in the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. And so Jonathan Lyons is going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like everybody to know he wanted to be the vice chair.
Fired across the bow.
Oh, he's in charge of vice now.
What?
Vice.
Oh, vice.
Anything that's vice, he's in charge of. All right, so the first item in the agenda that really we need to act on is the call to the public. And call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified in the agenda, which is why we have a lot of attorneys present all the time. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Rights statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomment@yumacountyaz.gov. The email's form of public comment will be accepted until 8 a.m. in the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read out loud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. We began that not that long ago, a couple of 3 years ago, when we had the situation with COVID, and we thought people may not want to show up at a public meeting. So we will continue to do that because it's become sort of like a way people communicate. So, Desiree, do we have any comments?
We do have one today.
Okay, could you please read it for the?
Sure. It's from a gentleman by the name of Rick Antonishek. He's unable to attend today, and so he sent an email concerning sidewalk problems. It's concerning vehicles parked on or blocking sidewalks, trash cans, and other objects blocking the sidewalks, curb ramps not installed to federal minimum standards, curb and gutter design and installed to encourage the illegal parking, and they're difficult for him to go over. So I can go ahead and forward this information to staff.
Yeah, county engineer, I think we got an appointment we're making today, so it looks like an engineering problem to me. So, all right, we're going to move on then. We're going to take that comment into account, and I hope he left some sort of an address so we can address it. So somebody from the county staff will address that. Anybody else here from the public that has an item that or that wants to say something or present something that isn't in the agenda? It's not public APS, but I'm always concerned when I see the APS people. Normally, well, no, let's leave it at that. I thought you wanted to do an introduction or something. All right, so we'll go to presentation, proclamations, and appointments. During this segment,
I'm sorry, I apologize. I do have a call to the public item. Today is the first day for our management analyst, Mr. Martin Garcia, who's coming to us actually from the City Neighborhood Services Department. So Martin is starting today with our...
Just to see how tall you are, and so we
Good morning. I'm Martin Garcia. I have 2.5 years of local government experience, 7 years of military experience. I have a master's degree in public administration. I did grow up in Yuma. I love this community, and I look forward to serving it. Nice to meet you all.
You've been in local government, huh?
2.5 years, yes, sir.
This is going to be more local than anything been before. So
yes,
welcome.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.
All right, so after that, is that it? We now move on to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. And during this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustments. No legal action will be taken. And we take the opportunity to do a presentation through our channel of the county line, as we call it, by Yuma 77. It's the Yuma County Government Channel.
Welcome to your County Line Year in Review. We look back over 2021, where we emerged from the most severe restrictions imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. We continue to experience new ways of serving the community, while also returning to some form of normalcy. Our Yuma County Public Health Services District began holding vaccine clinics in an effort to achieve the goal of herd immunity from COVID-19. In January, vaccines to those individuals in the 1B prioritization category began being offered. Fast forward to December, all eligible age groups have had their opportunity to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. Boosters for those fully vaccinated are being distributed to ages 16 and up. The Pfizer vaccine is now being offered to children and adolescents ages 5 to 11. As the virus continues to be present, Yuma County will remain proactive to help minimize the risk that lies ahead. During the year, our Office of Emergency Management held important trainings to ensure that our first responders are safe when working with hazardous materials. An Ammonia Responder course was a unique class that combined simulating classroom experience with hands-on training scenarios. First responders participated in ammonia drills designed to respond to ammonia leaks, as well as the opportunity to connect with experts in the ammonia field. A partnership with Union Pacific and TransCare offered an 8-hour course which covered railroad safety and how to address valve failures. Once finished in the classroom, first responders used a real rail car to simulate valve failures. Our Public Works Department made some changes with technology to improve how they collect accurate road reports. Gone are the days of window inspections. Public Works are now using Road AI. This new equipment uses artificial intelligence and allows for a comprehensive and objective analysis of pavement conditions for enhanced road management. Road AI performs in-depth analysis of video data and eliminates human error. Inspectors can now work independently and multitask, resulting in lower with pavement survey data collecting. Our engineering department covered a lot of county ground last year, making improvements to numerous roads, while also receiving an award. A variety of signage was installed at County 11th Street and Somerton Avenue to improve safety at this unusual cross-section. An award was received for best use of an ITS industry product or service. The Coyote Wash Channelization project removed homes, trees, shrubs, fences, and sheds from the flood zone. A channel was dug for an improved path for water to flow from the wash and emptied into the Gila River. The North Frontage Road Widening project broke ground. Once complete, it will include the addition of storm drains, curb and gutter along sidewalks, as well as bike lanes in both directions. The Martinez Lake Road and Red Cloud Mine Road received improvements including grading, paving, drainage, and smoothing out the vertical alignment, improving safety and providing all-weather access. Yuma County's grants team was busy last year with their housing rehabilitation program, which was able to help a family move into a new home. Back in May, local contractors broke ground on a Dateland home that was in need of major repairs. The first phase was the demolition and removal of the old home from the site. Over the course of a few months, the contractor was able to complete the 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. The safety and accessibility issues were addressed, and the home was fitted with energy-efficient windows and appliances. After the final walkthrough, the happy homeowners were able to move in. Yuma County Employee of the Year, Superior Court Employee of the Year, and the Safety Excellence Award winners were announced. Last year in April, during a board meeting, the winners were recognized for their achievements. Miguel Parra with Public Works received the Safety Excellence Award. Aaron Ballos with Conciliation Court was awarded the 2020 Yuma County Superior Court Employee of the Year. And finally, the 2020 Yuma County Employee of the Year went to Jessica Rodriguez with Human Resources. Thank you all for your service. Thanks for joining us for this County Line. 2021 was a busy year, and we hope to carry that same momentum into 2022. Happy New Year!
In case I forgot to mention it, the open to the public section, we keep it open throughout the meeting so that we can address anyone that comes in a little late. Sometimes, we don't forget it's a Monday, and sometimes Mondays are tough for most people to go anywhere else. So Just wanted to make that point. So we move on then to the consent calendar. And on the consent calendar, all the items are listed under the consent agenda and will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion, unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. We have, I think, 8 items.
Nine.
Does anybody- 8 items?
Nine.
I must have an old agenda. All right. 9 items. Oh, I'm just blind. 9 items. Does anybody want to pull any one? I'd like to pull 5. I can't let the opportunity pass by. Item number 5.
I'll move to approve all with the exception of 5.
I'll second.
There's been a motion, a second, to approve all consent items except with the exception of number 5. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposes? We'll take item number 5, which is for county administration to appoint and authorize the hiring of Mr. Francisco Frank Sanchez as the county engineer, grade 151, step 19, with an annual salary of $135,304 or 65.05 per hour, effective January 3rd, 2022. So, Mr. Sanchez.
Chairman, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity.
I have some suggestions what you do with the salary increase. We'll talk about it later.
We can talk on the side.
All right. Now, really, I mean, introduce yourself a little bit, but we've known you for years, and I just wanted to take out the time to tell you that I am very pleased, and I'm sure most everybody is very pleased that you took on the position. You earned the right to be there, and I just wanted to let you know how pleased I am to actually hear that you decided to continue with us as the county engineer.
Well, thank you so much. Again, my name is Frank Sanchez. I'm from Yuma, San Luis. Grew up in San Luis when San Luis was a very small town, and we were so excited.
According to the census, still is a very small town.
So we were all excited when I was there and we got our first Circle K. That was big news back then, and so I attended Northern Arizona University. Graduated there with a bachelor's in civil engineering. Did ROTC, so did a little bit of time in the military, and when I got out of the military, came to Yuma County, and been here ever since, back in 2000.
You got to get used to.
Thank you so much.
You got to get used to not saying now, not acting.
Or interim, yes.
Or interim. No, I second his thoughts. I mean, I was more than pleased to see that you accepted the position. I think you're the right man for the job.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve 5 as presented.
I'll second that.
We wanted to roast him a little bit longer, but it's too long. Well, okay, so there's been a motion and a second to approve item 5 as presented. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I thought that was going to be a little more controversial, but
Right. Thank you. Right.
We
Frank, thank you.
service, yes.
All right, that takes care of the consent items, and we move on to discussion and action items, where the board will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. And the first item in the agenda is County Administration, Public Health Services District, and Emergency Management. Discussion and possible action regarding COVID-19 updates and activities. We set aside this item. We've done it for now a couple of years, because there's always something in the COVID front that we need to talk about, and we needed to have something in the agenda that we could make a decision on. So without further ado, we have the County Health Director, Diana Gomez, coming up without a mask.
Yay.
Yes.
Hi.
Don't say nothing, just go on, ignore them.
Don't pick on it.
Okay, good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Happy New Year. So again, going over our cases, we've seen an increase. We expected to see an increase. Again, people were gathering for the holidays, so you're going to see that reported in our daily numbers. Again, reminding people that there is a vaccine that is free, available, and safe. The numbers that we reported on Friday for hospitalization showed that 65 people were hospitalized and 56 of those were unvaccinated. So we're consistently seeing those numbers skewed that way. It's just we're seeing predominantly Delta variant still. We're seeing an increase in Omicron. We expect to see that the cases will peak in mid-January. Again, the primary concern has always been not to overwhelm the healthcare system. And many people have encountered the fact that we've seen elective surgeries or other procedures canceled again because you have to have resources. We worked really closely with our federal partners. I was up here a few months ago talking about the concern with the healthcare system and trying to, we were all competing for the same resources, the medical staff. There's plenty of room. There's just not that staff. So working with the state and putting in a request through emergency management, our team was able to procure a team of 10 paramedics that arrived the week of Christmas to assist. And I think you saw the press release from the White House. So there was an amount of paramedics that were coming to Arizona. We got 10 of those to assist of YRMC. And then shortly after, we worked with the state again to procure a second team. This team was mixed medical professionals, some nurses, some physicians, to help. This was a 15-member team. And we expect them to be here anywhere between 4 weeks and 6 weeks. But again, those ICU nurses and the critical care nurses, that those respiratory therapists, incredible need for those medical personnel. So again, if you're sick, please stay home. Please get tested. There's free testing available everywhere. Please consider getting a vaccine if you haven't already. If you still have questions, please reach out. We want to make sure that those questions are answered. We're going to continue to work through this as we keep moving along. Again, we still have Delta prevalent in our community. There's genetic sequencing. We are doing that again through the labs at the state. We haven't identified an Omicron case here yet. It doesn't mean it's not here. It just means not all positive tests are sequenced, and usually it could take 1 to 2 weeks to get those results. So just because we haven't identified it doesn't mean it's here. But we do expect that prevalence to increase. Again, the clinical presentation for Omicron seems to be a little milder than for Delta. So again, practice those basic preventive layered approaches. Sometimes it's appropriate to wear a mask. Sometimes it's appropriate to do this or that. And that's why we give you that information, so that you have the best available information so that you can be safe and keep your family safe.
I've got a couple of questions. One is, I have a 15-year-old daughter who she's in high school. She's got her first shot, second shot, Pfizer. When are they going to be able to get boosted?
So they're having that discussion to authorize that for 16 and up for boosters.
So they're having, meaning the FD,
The formal
CDC?
Oh, good.
But it's not available yet.
Are we
So
doing it?
6 months after the second one, if they're actually compromised.
Right now, that's the only.
The only way to get a
Well,
booster
I
is-
mean, you can get it. We are asking people that's the authorized
Priority.
recommendation right now, the prioritization. Again, with some of those antibody therapies as well, you have those prioritizations for those at-risk groups. So
And obviously, they have to have the card, their vaccination card. They should have their vaccination card with.
you shouldn't. If you don't have it, we can look you up in the system. So again, we don't want somebody to not come because they forgot their vaccination card.
Another question, and I know that Lynn wants to ask a few more questions, but the length of stay in the hospital, when I hear numbers like 60, 65, 67, those are kind of the same numbers I've been hearing for a while. Does it mean that there's 67 people how long do they stay in? Is there an average stay of 2 weeks? Is it a week? I guess if you're intubated, well, you don't. Is there an average length of stay?
That's the concerning part. When you have severe symptoms, that you come down with COVID and you have severe symptoms enough that require hospitalization, we really don't know how long you'll be in there. We do know, for example, of those 65 patients, there was 9 in there that were vaccinated. We know that typically vaccinated patients are either observed or they stay maybe 1 or 2 days and then they're released. However, those unvaccinated patients, it's hard to predict the length of time. You never really know how this is going to react. There's a misconception, again, sometimes that, it's just the older people that have those serious, infections. And that's not necessarily true. We've seen people in their 30s, or I say the 30s are young. And
30,
Younger people.
yeah.
no.
Which for us is anyone under 50.
So it's just one of those things where it's unpredictable. So it's really hard to make a just a blanket statement on that, because it's so unpredictable. We've seen really, really young people. And then a lot of people have that long haul COVID where they are released, but then they're dealing with overcoming a lot of those lingering symptoms for weeks or months to come. So we just don't know. And again, that's why, opting for a vaccine gives you your best shot. And that's just the numbers, the statistics. I realize that that's a very personal decision and people need to really research it and look into it. A lot of people are hesitant and say, I wanted to do more research. We've had about a year of doing this. And so again, if you're still hesitant, please reach out. If you're looking for some specific information, we'd be happy to point you in the right direction if you need more information to make that decision. But please consider getting your vaccine.
Yeah, my question is, you're still having vaccination clinics?
We are. We're having vaccination clinics on site. We've been, during the holiday break, we actually focused on our school age vaccinations. You saw in our daily updates that we weren't hosting on-site vaccines, and that's because a lot of kids are out of school, and it gave us ample opportunity to focus on those school age vaccination clinics. So we still had a vaccine clinic. We just didn't host a COVID vaccine clinic on site. But yes, those resume tomorrow.
Thank you. And they're from what time to what time?
So 8:30 to 11:30, and then 1 to 4.
Thank you.
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday. Thank you.
Supervisor Simmons?
I'm just curious, and you may not know, how is that wastewater testing going as the numbers wise?
So, so the wastewater testing again is ongoing. We're seeing those numbers, and we're seeing them ebb. High concern, and then they kind of drop down. We see an increase typically over in the holidays. They're going to start the process of doing some genetic sequencing again. And when those numbers are high, the recommendation again is to go out and get tested. So those are still being reported, and they have a weekly summary that pushes those numbers. So that in combination with the daily numbers we report, again, is just a snapshot of what's going on in our community. We don't really capture anything. A lot of people stay home. Some people are asymptomatic. Some people don't get tested. But again, when you see those numbers, again, if you're sick, regardless of vaccination status, please get tested. I think that's another issue. Those vaccines are incredibly effective. No vaccine is 100% perfect, and sometimes we do have those breakthrough infections, though people that do become infected when vaccinated tend to have very mild or asymptomatic. But again, you have the capacity. It's a diminished capacity, but you could still spread the virus. So please, if you think you might be sick, just get tested.
Mr. Chair and Diana, I lost my thought after all that. Sorry, I'll get it again.
All right, I do have a question. Maybe I heard in the news, but it gets a little confusing with all the information that we keep getting about isolating. I mean, it used to be 10 days, then it was 7 days, and now here 5 days. I mean, is it based on the strain, or is it just simply something that the CDC is changing as it sees difference in seriousness?
So yes, so the recommendation changed from the standard 10 days after testing positive to 5 days if you're asymptomatic. So if you have no symptoms, after 5 days, you can end the isolation period, but you must wear a mask for 5 days. And that's just, again, over an abundance of caution. And that's because like I said, we've been doing this for a year. And so now some of the data and some of the research studies have shown that you're most infectious or infectiousness peaks 1 to 2 days before you show symptoms. And maybe a day or two after you show symptoms. So that's the gap. So if you have no symptoms and you test positive, then you can have that isolation. It's a shortened isolation for 5 days, and then they recommend you wear a mask, again, out of an abundance of caution for the remainder of the 5 days, which would compose the entire 10-day. But that gives you that flexibility. Again, it's if you have no symptoms. At this time, there's not a requirement to test negative to end the isolation period. That might change with updated guidance. But at this point, it's if you have no symptoms, isolate for 5 instead of 10, and then wear a mask for the remainder of the 5 if you're out in public.
Remember my question when you're done.
Yeah, well, in most cases, it's tough to know when you have no symptoms that you have COVID. So, and it's tough to know when it started if you can't feel anything. It's kind of a little. I think that is a little confusing, in that it should require the testing is the issue here. I mean, if you don't feel anything, the only reason you probably want to test is if you've been around someone that has already been you know,
Exposed, yeah.
exposed, or unless you're exposed. Otherwise, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know when it starts. You wouldn't know when you got it because you wouldn't have feel anything. It's really difficult to me, and I think it keeps confusing people when you tell them, well, 5 days if you didn't feel anything, 10 days if you feel sick. It's difficult. There's too much. I think there's too much information. That they need to be a little more consistent. All right, your question?
My question. The wastewater testing results, are they on our website or are they on your website or?
So everybody, I don't know if that they're being reported on the daily report, but every municipality, we convened a steering committee. So every municipality and every jurisdiction gets reports. Every time those samples are processed, they get a report. So there's a local snapshot for each community, San Luis, Somerton, Welton. And so those are monitored locally as well. And so when those levels are elevated above the baseline, then those communities opt to send out those reminders to people. Because again, the recommended action is to consider getting tested. It's just an awareness that there's a higher level detected in the community. So you've seen them post like on their city Facebook pages. Yeah.
All right.
But you get a copy, right?
Any other questions for the health department? We do have Tony here, who's emergency management. We may want to ask him a couple of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Tony?
Tony Badia.
everybody.
Happy New Year.
So you switched places with Diana, so you were in the mask.
Yeah. Just kind of, I feel like a broken record. Tony Badia, Yuma County Emergency Management, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. Broken record. Testing. There's a lot of testing opportunities throughout the county. There's a lot of clinics offering them up. Some private contractors out there doing that. So testing's available. Obviously, you saw during the holidays, some people took advantage of that, went out, got tested, and our numbers kind of went up a little bit. That's a good thing to have happen, that they got those identified before they went out and spent time with family and friends. The other things we've been dealing with is putting out resource requests, coordinating with public health. Those resource requests, as you can see, the hospital got some staffing. I think the food bank got extended, one of the few food banks in the county that got extended with National Guard assets. They were pulling those back as of the first of the year. And I believe I put the request in until April. So hopefully we can continue that. As you know, with COVID, volunteer opportunities or volunteer personnel is limited due to the COVID issues. So we want to continue to support some of our nonprofits and our non-government organizations because they do a lot of good work for not only for our community, but for also some of the other incidents out there. So
there was a question I should have asked Diana about testing, which is the kit, they take home kit. I mean, are they readily available at places like Walmart? I mean, without mentioning a lot of names.
You know, I haven't went out personally shop for them, but I do know some of my family members have taken advantage of that, went out and purchased them and used those before they went and spent time with other family members. So maybe some of you may have had that opportunity. I don't go into the stores very often, but I'm sure they are, unless somebody can tell me otherwise.
Is there, I received a comment or, an email, or a text, I don't remember exactly what it was, regarding, thanking the county for supplying some bathroom facilities, some portable toilet facilities with that issue with the migrants gathering out there near the Algodones border. Did you guys handle that?
Yeah, we coordinated with Supervisor Lyons, and we actually met with some farmers in the area, and they were concerned with some of the not only with COVID, but with some of the other illnesses that are out there that are very consistent with people not having restroom facilities. So because of that, we coordinated with a local vendor here and put 10 restrooms at 2 different locations, which are the high crossing areas, and have been very successful when they're maintained and cleaned on a regular basis, and according to what we're being told they're used. Yeah.
Didn't know who thought about it, but I did receive a couple of comments. They're very positive comments. So thank you for just taking a step up forward and actually putting aside all the issues and just dealing with the facts.
Sure.
So that is something that I think it's made Yuma County a place to be proud to live in. I mean, we look at problems and we go solve them. We don't talk about it a long time. I wanted to thank you for that.
Mr. Chair, Tony, are we doing any cleanup after, how people leave everything when they come across and when they get picked up by the Border Patrol, they leave everything because they can't take it and it just
I
sits
would,
there?
I would say there's been some,
I know, we're getting a little off the side. Yeah, the emergency, I knew it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, that gets more into the migrant, but it is an emergency.
Sure.
It's a humanitarian crisis.
Right.
So, you know,
It
we'll talk
is.
about it
Thank
briefly, but yes, you can answer that later to her. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else in the emergency management? Anything new that coming down the pipe?
Done with COVID.
Sure. Yeah,
I
sure.
just wanted to commend Tony on being readily accessible and available and working in a very timely fashion to get a lot of problems solved over the last few weeks.
It's not what I heard. No, I'm just gonna tell you.
Oh, we appreciate all your guys' support as well. So,
Okay,
thank you.
Tony, thank you very much. Unless anybody else had any other questions? No, thank you. We're gonna move on if we don't have any more questions or items. But Tony is leaving anyway, so, you know, if you had them, you can ask him later. Number two, we're gonna move on to county administration, grants, discussion, and prioritization of proposed projects for the fiscal year 2022 Community Development Block Grant application to the Arizona Department of Housing. Staff?
Good morning.
I think they know.
Happy New Year. Good morning, Chairman Reyes and members of the board. My name is Veronica Garcia. I'm with the County Administration Grants Division, and I'm here to present to you our Community Development Block Grant process for fiscal year 2022, and possibly the prioritization of our projects that we've looking at submitting for this year's regional account for our Cdbg process. We actually come out to you every other year, you know, with this presentation, so you might have heard it already, but just to give you a little more information about it, okay? So the Community Development Block Grant, normally known as the Cdbg grant, is a federally funded program through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which provides resources to communities for development needs. And it's funded through and authorized under the Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. And this program is provided through annual grants on formula basis. So the funds are provided to local governments and states, entitlement governments and states. Yuma County actually is not entitlement community, so we have to apply for these grants through the state, through the Arizona Department of Housing, instead of directly from the HUD. So CDBG, there's actually 3 different types of CDBG applications that are out. There's a regional account, the state special projects, and the Colonia set-asides. So when the state of Arizona, the Arizona Department of Housing receives their funding from HUD for the CDBG every year, they are required to set aside 10% of the funding to be used for Colonia projects, which, you know, Yuma County does have 13 designated colonias, but they have to, and these are grants that we receive on a competitive basis. So they go out every 2 years, and we have to apply competitively around the state for these types of funds. Then after that 10%, the rest goes to the regional account, 85% goes to the regional account, and 15% goes to the state special projects, which again, the state special projects is a competitive process as well, that the county has to compete along with other state communities, cities or counties. But right now where we're focusing in is a regional account, because this one is coming up. We don't have the allocation yet, or we're not sure exactly how much we're going to be receiving for our regional account this year. But we're estimating 540,000. This is because last year, or fiscal year 2021, this is the amount that the San Luis and Somerton, City of San Luis and City of Somerton received. So we're kind of estimating the same amount, a little bit less or more.
Let me before you continue. 540,000. That's just one share of the 2 shares. So it's actually $1 million
Yes. Mhm.
So
So
I
they
just want to
split
make
it.
that clear.
So
They split it in two.
it's
So
split it
San
in
Luis
two.
got 540 and Somerton got 540. So we're looking at the county's share of the CDBG fund, which should be about $1 million something, which would be 540,000, just like San Luis and Somerton split.
There was a gentleman's agreement, because normally what happens is when the state receives these funds, they allocate it or they contract or with the Council of Governments, the local council of governments, in this case, Wacog or the Western Arizona Council of Governments. And they were the ones that distribute the funds. And years ago, there was a gentleman's agreement in the Yuma County area where our four cities or towns, San Luis, City of San Luis, City of Somerton, Town of Welton, and Yuma County, we're going to share those funds every other year. So what happens is City of San Luis and City of Somerton get it 1 year, and they split it, and then the next year, Yuma County and Town of Welton split the allocation the next year, and so forth. So last year, City of San Luis and City of Somerton received it. This year, it would be Yuma County and Town of Welton, and we would split the funds. So we're estimating our funds to be 540 approximately. So in order for us, the projects that we submit for these funds have to meet, are required to meet one of the 3 national objectives. And these would be, the project would have to prevent or eliminate slum or blighted areas, address an urgent or emergency community need, or benefit low and moderate income families. For number 1 and 2, normally for those, there's a little bit more requirements in order for a project to be eligible through those national objectives, because they, for example, they have to have a resolution by the board for the natural disaster, for the address urgent or emergency community need. The board would have to designate the area a natural disaster in order for qualify. And most of our projects fall into the low and moderate income. And the state also requires that at least 70% of the funding that they allocate be to low and moderate income families. So most of our projects in the past have just met that national objective. And within the low and moderate, there's the 2 areas, which is the area benefit, which basically this is if a project is going to benefit a full area. So we have to determine that the area that we're assisting is low to moderate income, or limited clientele, which is we have to make sure that each individual person that is going to be receiving assistance, by this program that we're doing is going to be low income, or it's going to be an elderly person or a disabled person, so a limited clientele type of person. These are just some examples of the eligible CDBG grant activities. Public improvements is one of the activities eligible, public facilities, rehabilitation, public services, and we do use a lot of the CDBG funds for our rehabilitation of owner-occupied housing. Acquisition of land or real property to be used for eligible purposes. There is also the planning and administration that we can use these funds for. Energy conservation and renewable energy resources. In the past, these are some of the projects that we have completed. So in 2014, we helped the Amberley's Place with some furniture and equipment. 2016, we helped the Campesinos in Fronteras with their housing rehabilitation for seniors. Just recently, we completed the Comité Las Casitas HVAC replacement project. They were assisted with replacing 26 units, HVAC units on their Las Casitas apartments. And then we were also able to do the food bank by replacing 13 of their evaporative coolers that they have there on their warehouse.
Did you replace them with refrigerated?
No.
They can.
Okay.
So they're just evaporative coolers.
Okay.
We completed in October, so I don't think they've used them yet, but hopefully this summer, the workers, the volunteers will be out there. They'll be able to enjoy a cooler warehouse. And this is just a timeline of how we go through the process of the CDBG, because the state does require us to go through different public hearings to get information from the community and nonprofits of what kind of projects they would like to have or see done in the community. So we did conduct the first public hearing on October the 13th. We asked the nonprofits to submit their identification form or basically their application of projects that they would like to see by November 17th. And then as of today, we're doing the prioritization of these projects that were received. We'll be working on those applications once we decide which applications we're going to be submitting. We'll be working on those. We have to come back to the board to conduct our second public hearing. Approximately, we're approximating on April 18th to come back and certify or verify the projects that we're actually going to be submitting to the state for a regional account. And then all applications are due to the Western Arizona Council of Governments, or Hvac, approximately May 20th. So by end of May is normally when those applications are due. And as far as funding, we probably won't see that funding into the Yuma County towards the end of the year 2022, or possibly beginning of next year. So we're not sure about that right now, but it usually takes about a year or two for us to go through the whole process.
Okay.
So I just wanted to show you guys, this is just a breakdown of some of the projects. During our public hearing, we had some concerned residents from our Avenue BNC Colonia with some projects that they would like to see. We also had the Catholic Community Service with some projects that they would like, a project that they would like to see on their safe house.
Safe house, really, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the projects that we have right now online would be the Catholic Community Services Safe House expansion. They're looking at expanding their shelter with an additional 2 bedrooms and 2 baths and a meeting room. And this is mostly, they said because of the COVID pandemic, the state, they're asking for them to, to be able, they have an increase in families needing the assistance, but also they're asking for them to be able to provide social distancing and just 1 family per room. So they're looking into doing that expansion. So they did submit that application. We also have some concerned residents, like I said, through the Avenue B and C Colonia, where they would like some lighting in the area for safety, concerns that they might have. So we are proposing the lighting on 5th Street between Avenue B and C. At this moment, we are still researching on the cost. So these are just estimates. We're still researching on the cost, and it had been brought up that maybe solar lighting would be a good option, but we're still doing our research and seeing what the cost would be, the pros and cons with solar, or just getting the lighting through the APS. So one thing to consider though is if we do install the lighting on 5th Street, that the CDBG program will cover the initial cost of construction and installation, but maintenance and all of that would need to be covered by the county afterwards. So
Or an improvement district.
Yeah, or the improvement district, correct, yes. So that's one of the other projects that we have. We also are incorporating here the Foothills Park ADA playground for our Foothills Multipurpose Complex. And we included our housing rehabilitation program as well. And here, and these are, I know that we only have 540,000. This does not match that number, but you know, we can always work on the amounts later. But and then there is a couple of other items that came up on that public hearing from the BNC Colonia, and one of them was the speed bumps. Like the residents, you know, were looking at, because of the traffic, you know, people going in through that 5th Street pretty fast. They were asking about speed bumps. In communication with the engineering department, this project would be eligible through the Highway User Revenue Fund. So the HER fund. So we're not recommending this project through the CDBG funds, you know, and referring it back, or recommending to defer to engineering with, you know, to pay it with the HER funds. Another concern or project that they were looking at is sidewalks on 5th Street. We also, you know, did some research on that. You know, we're not recommending this project because engineering did conduct preliminary concept reports years back on the 5th Street area and between Avenue B and C again. And they've determined that in order for Yuma County to be able to build or construct a sidewalk in that street, Yuma County would have to obtain acquisition of right-of-way from many of the residents in that area, which would displace a lot of residents and would cost millions of dollars, so which are not available through CDBG funding. So that is why we did include it in our spreadsheet here, because we, you know, it was something that came up during the public hearing, but we're now recommending that project. So in reality, I mean, we have recommended projects would be 4. We normally have more projects to prioritize. Unfortunately, this year from our nonprofits, we technically only received one project from our nonprofits in the area. So staff is recommending the prioritization this way. You know, basically with the regional account, we can submit 3 projects only to the state. So we're recommending to submit the Catholic Community Service project, the BNC Colonia Lighting project, and the Foothills Park ADA Playground. The 4th one, which would be the housing rehab, if for any reason one of these projects falls through, or you know, for whatever reason we can't submit it, then we'll fall back to the housing rehab owner rehabilitation program. Along with the projects that we have, and I should have started with this, but we are asking to set aside 18% for administration funds. And administration is you know, used for training of the staff, you know, sometimes salaries, supplies, and all of these have to be direct costs to the project. So we do look at the project that we're working on, and if it's staff time that we're paying, it has to be direct cost to those projects. And thirdly, we use it as contingency if in case one of the projects that we are submitting falls over, or we need more funds to cover that, you know, that project, then we use part of that administration funds, which a lot of the times it happens because, you know, by the time we get these funds, you know, maybe at the time of submittal of the application, they estimated this amount, but then 2 years later is when we're doing the project, and inflation and costs, you know, construction costs go up. So that's why we like to keep that administration fund set aside. Yep. So.
Time for questions, huh? Okay, well, let me start by looking at the numbers. I mean,
Sure.
you know, there's only $442,000
Yes.
that really, with the 18% taken off. Which, is there a formula for the percentage? I mean, I know that if Russ McLeod was here, he would be questioning the 18%, saying it's pretty high.
Ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
the
there-
state,
is there-
that's
yeah.
the state maximum, what they're I
So
believe.
there is a maximum, not a minimum, but a maximum.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I guess you worked it with administration, you use that as a contingency. I would have rather, I mean, I know you can't call it a contingency fund. So uh, that can be adjusted maybe a little bit. I would say 15%, 12%, something like that. That is more in line with what we ask nonprofits that, we ask nonprofits don't spend more than a certain percentage because of your funds, because it really takes away from what you're trying to do. I think it's just normal for me to think the county would act the same way, that you would try to keep that percentage not to the maximum level, but to what I would say a negotiated level, something around 15%, and maybe free up a little more money for the rest of the projects. But I don't know if that 3% difference, I mean, it might be $10,000, $12,000 more, are going to have an impact on the rest of it. I mean, it seems to me like with $442,000, ranking 3 projects that actually add up to $625,000 is going to kind of fit. So my question is, why is the BNC Colonia lighting on 5th Street not part of the Colonia set-aside projects? Is there something that
I think, when we do submit a Colonia projects to the state, they are very competitive. So that's why right now we're putting it on the BNC. On the regional account, because that's more a secure fund that we have.
Well, but I mean, I get that. But I mean, it's actually called the BNC Colonia, and to me, it just makes more sense to apply to the Colonia Fund and free up the other monies to do actually things that we can't do otherwise or can't fund otherwise. So and that's just if we were just doing, for example, Catholic Community Services, and number 2, we were putting in the Foothills Park ADA, and then number 3, we were putting the BNC Colonia, sort of like a backup situation where, okay, you're gonna have like $25,000 left over. You can use that as a matching fund or something to make that application for the Colonia funding a little more amenable. But I wouldn't put it in as number 2. I would put it in as number 3. And I know the rehab program, and I know that Nancy just stood up and came closer. I was going to use the time to kind of congratulate her on her retirement, but she's still pretty active, and I know she's going to say something about that. But like I said, I mean, to me, it just makes sense to put Catholic Community Services, the Foothills Park ADA, and then put in the Colonia if enough funding was left to do some project. The lighting may be, there's APS here, so we're not going to talk about solar a lot. But it could be that we can only buy like 5 solar lights instead of getting APS to bring in the 15, 20 that it would be required there. But it seems to me like that BNC Colonia lighting thing can be adjusted to just simply do half of it or a quarter, whatever money we have left over. I wouldn't mind having it as a third option if we had the money left over, or if we could just simply apply for the, once we figure out what it's going to cost. Because what happens is most of this are just estimates. When you get really right down to it, you may find out that to do 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, at the Catholic Community Services may be a lot more than 200,000, given the situation with the construction industry.
Costs,
So, to me, that's just how I start, right? I take my priority because, I can. And so to me, it would be 1 would be Catholic Community Services, 2 would be the Foothills Park, 3 would be the Yuma County BNC Colonial Lighting. I was thinking that there may be another way to fund that. And then the Yuma County Rehab Program, which is always there anyway, and which can be, we can apply to the special, what did it call it, the other one? Yeah, state special projects, if it's doing well. And you just showed us, I think a while ago, a house that was built in Welton. So if it's doing well and we're solving some problems, I think we may have enough, I guess, track record to be able to continue doing that. And that's something the county of Yuma, I personally work in housing a lot. And I love the fact that we take care of some people. I mean, I've never liked the fact that we use so much money in one single project, because when you tear something down and build it up again, I'm not sure I'd call it rehab, but still though, it helps people, live decently. And when I see the kind of housing you build, like 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom thing, I know you're not doing like, $250,000 homes. You're actually doing, smaller homes. So anyway, that's just my take on this. Nancy, I'm sure you're gonna have your own too. So Nancy, Nye.
Hi, Nancy.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Nancy Knight, County Administration. Just want to make you aware of a couple of things. One is the lighting is not eligible for the Colonia funding. Even though it's a Colonia, it's been designated as a Colonia, the Colonia funds can only be used for housing, water, and sewer projects. So that pretty much eliminates for us. And we've done housing and sewer project there in the past in the BNC Colonia. Also, another fact is that there is no lighting improvement district on Fifth Street. So if you chose to move forward with that project, you would have, the county would have to
assume
the maintenance. But that would be the same even if you do solar, because there is the maintenance cost of solar. There's batteries that we replace and whatnot. So that's one of the considerations with that project. And in terms of the 18% administration, you know, I know we talk about it in every year that it comes up for funding. And I think it's more crucial this year to keep it 18%. And the reason for it is because, you know, once you provide that funding to the nonprofit, it makes it more difficult for them to try and cough up any contingencies. And right now, construction cost is just so high. It always helps if the county is able to put some money toward the construction or the contingency to meet some of that need versus 100% coming out of the nonprofit. So that's the reason, you know, instead of coming back to the board for.
Yeah. And I believe that, I truly believe that the money is going to be a little higher this year than last year. There seems to be a lot of money coming through some of these programs that have increased this year for some reason, have increased this year. So it still leaves me pretty much at the same spot. I don't mind putting them as a third option and seeing what we can do. But it requires for the county to take some decisions on its own. For example, are we going to take on the maintenance? And if we do, is that going to open up the door to a lot of other places, a lot of other people in a lot of other places who like to get some lighting, but can't because we're asking them, we can't get, you know, we can't do maintenance on everything. And I just like to caution the board into thinking that it's just one case. It's one case that opens up the door for many other cases and many other places in Yuma County that would come up and say, hey, if you're paying for that, why aren't you paying for, you know, this at the Orange Grove area or at the other area?
Mr. Chairman, can the Colonia qualify, or can they put in for a improvement district?
It would take too long. You can't get it done by the time you have to make the application.
No, can they, instead of them being on that list, they could put together an improvement district and that would pay for their lighting and maintenance, and they would be paying for their lighting and maintenance from then on, and with APS and not with us, not with the county, correct?
Yeah, well, that's tough to tell them, right? Go ahead, Supervisor Porches.
I'm just gonna have to disagree, you know, with you. I think BNC should be the number one. Let's go back to the national objectives. It's to prevent or eliminate slum or blighted areas, which the county hasn't done for a long time. I mean, we go back to what we have given the money to. It's basically nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
It doesn't help the whole county.
It doesn't?
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't help every single resident that should be available to receive some of this money
food bank
within.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. A lot of people not getting food from the food bank. Not everybody. So it only helps certain people.
I understand.
But I think
coming from the city.
I mean, every project is good, and I'm not gonna say it's not. Some deserve. But if you also look into who's the only one that gives money every year, I don't know if every other city gives money to them. Why is only the county giving money to this nonprofit organization?
The city of San Luis does it all the time. They give
Well,
it to
you
Youth
know,
Build, they give it to a lot of organizations that
well,
apply for it.
and those are things that we need to find out, but I think it's money that should go back into the community that really shows if it's a sidewalk, if it's a light, if it's a street, a stop sign, whatever it is that it qualifies. I think it shows that area that we're helping out there.
Let me ask you.
That's my,
All right.
you know,
Yeah,
that's
fine.
one of the things. But also, you know, we just give too much money to nonprofit organizations. Housing, it only helps those individuals. It doesn't help the neighbor. It doesn't help someone that lives in another block. So I think we need to start looking at the national objectives of what really goes back into certain areas of the county.
Well,
That's
all right. And I get it. I mean, I came from being a county mayor, I mean, a city mayor. And I've always had this issue with city using it for just sidewalks and sewers and things like that, because, or community centers, which is what most, cities do. They build out community centers. Yes. And the county, back when I became a county supervisor, didn't even use this money. They didn't want to use this money. They didn't want to use Cdbg projects because they thought it was helping low income. That wasn't the job, the county's job. So we have built parks that help communities out there. We are doing water systems in some places with Cdbg money. We're doing housing rehab with Cdbg money that, you may be targeted to certain areas, it may be, but it's countywide. Everybody in the county can apply as long as they live in the county. Cities, I believe, have a priority, and I don't mind having a mixed priority. In other words, I don't mind somebody saying, well, BNC Colonia is something that we can help by, for helping them provide with lighting. But again, this situation is special because to me, it's just providing the lighting, it's assuming the responsibility for the upkeep and maintenance of that lighting, which is something that we've always refused to do in the past as a county, mainly because what it does is creates a situation where we're putting light in some place that people want to have light some other place, and we have no argument against that. It's a path that you go to that you need to continue on if you're going to be, and if we're going to change that philosophy, I don't have a particular problem with it. I just want everybody to be aware that whatever we do with a nonprofit, for example, whether it's Campesinos or whether it's Comité or Catholic Community Service, it's supposed to be a countywide thing. It's not supposed to be limited to certain areas. As a matter of fact, they may be helping people within the city of Yuma, or the city of Somerton, or the city of San Luis, or the town of Welton. I've always thought that, for example, supporting the food bank was supporting county residents somewhere. I always thought that Catholic Community Service was supporting, a wide array of people, especially safe houses. I always thought that the money was always better used when it was used in a general way instead of a specific area. We've done Gaston Park, we've done Tacna things, we've done things out in the county. And if there's an argument to start using them in specific areas, I have no problem with that either. I just want to know what the project is and how we're going to deal with it, because even though we can't, right now we're talking about a precedent of us using it in a general way with nonprofits. Now we're talking about using it in a specific area of the county. That is a change in. But to me, that is a change in perception of how we use this money. I don't have any particular problem. I just want to make the argument that once we go down that path, it is a path that we need to be ready to proceed on.
There's always the how to do an improvement district, and that's one of the conditions that we can say. And I guarantee you, there was an area in that BNC Colonia that did their own. That took them, they did their own improvement district within a certain block. And they got the lighting, county helped in certain ways, but they did it. So I'm sure that if we give them that opportunity, I mean, there's over 700 homes in that area.
Yes.
So that don't have lighting. I think, there's certain, I mean, I don't have anything against the nonprofits, but it's just, it helps certain individuals.
All right.
With the whole county, but only certain individuals. A park will help the whole county. Anybody can use it. Anybody can go and enjoy that park. That's the difference between nonprofit and a park or a street or a sidewalk.
All right, got it. But again, this project itself, you know, to be able to qualify now under this process that we're going through right now, won't have an improvement district. And I don't think you can just say it will have an improvement district by the time the money gets in. I don't think that's going to help you qualify. I think that you needed to do a lot of prep work before you got it here and had the residents there understand they're going to assume the cost. Otherwise, we need to proceed with the assumption that the county is going to be paying for the maintenance, whether it's solar, whether it's APS, whether it's anything. Otherwise, it won't qualify. You'll get, well, and let me go back a little bit to the agreement, what you call a gentleman's agreement. I was part of that gentleman's agreement. It used to be very competitive. The city of Yuma used to get all the money all the time until the cities, the smaller cities, you know, sort of got together and decided, okay, well, this is enough. We don't have the staff to make the applications. So we came up with this distribution process who has stood the test of time for like 20 some years, longer than I want to admit. But it's worked for us because most other places are very competitive. And when you compete with a city the size of Yuma or a county the size of Yuma County, and you're a town like Welton, you know, or you're not represented by anybody else, I mean, just a county supervisor, it becomes a difficult thing. I see the points. I do see the points about trying to do things for neighborhoods, you know, that specifically impact neighborhoods.
Right.
This may be one of those because we've done them in the park. We've done parks in the park. I mean, parks in the past. We did the Esperanza Park in Orange Grove. It didn't work because nobody wanted to take care of it. That's one of the things that this money, we were very careful in the past not to do, is to create something that has to be maintained by the county. We wanted to let the money go out, and once it's out, and the benefits out, and we don't have any maintenance problems. That's why we build houses and we build other things. Or we give it to nonprofits so that they can help the community in general. But there are no follow-up for us. Once the project is done, it's done. Once the money goes out, it's done. This one specifically, the VNC Colonial Lighting Park, may be one of those cases where, you know, if the rest of the board is willing, they may be willing to accept something that will provide a long-term cost to the county. I've always been very reluctant to do that. In the county, that's one of those things that has kept, to me, the budget balanced. I mean, we're very leery of going out and improving a street right away that isn't, I mean, until you guys came in, you guys, meaning the new board members 4, 5, 6 years ago, we almost never took on improvements in the county road out in the middle of nowhere because we always felt, okay, well, once we do that, we're going to assume our responsibility. Again, not having come from a city perspective and knowing where, you know, Supervisor Porches comes from and his views on this, I'd say that maybe it is time for us to consider assuming some responsibilities over the long run. We have to be careful how we go about doing it because you're going to find in me one of those people that says that precedent is as good as, yeah. Precedent is one of those things that it's on the people's mind that.
And so 6th Street and 4th Street and 3rd Street and 2nd Street, all of that Colonia from B to C are going to ask for the same thing, and we're going to end up maintaining all of those areas lighting districts. And to me, that's not the
And I like the concept. I like the concept of lighting up the county. It is one of those things that people complain about, the condition of roads out in the county and the lighting out in the county. It's dark. But then you meet the other side of things, which is when people move out in the county, the last thing they want is more lighting. They want to be living in the dark and they want to see the open skies and stuff. In this particular case, I think the neighborhood wants lighting, this particular case. And
but
so I think,
Mr. Chair, it seems to me that they could do an improvement district and that they could do an improvement district that would take care of all of it. That would take care of putting it in and the maintenance of it. And if that's what they want, then that seems to me that's, I'd rather see the safe house expansion because I know that the work that the safe house
If you like,
does.
I can go ahead and get the spreadsheet for the ranking, and you guys, I would call.
oh, this is pretty. I mean, I think it's philosophical. I think the points that Supervisor Porches makes are his philosophy. He feels that there are some national objectives, and he feels that this money should be used like it's used in the cities. It's used to improve the sewer. It's used to improve the water. It's used for things that are communal. But it's also narrowed to that area, specific area. When you do projects like in the city or something, normally you do water expansion or you do things that are specific to a low income area. Because if you do it you can't do it in an area that doesn't qualify. So even in the cities, you have to come up with the prices that impacts low and middle income people. So without making it too complicated, because I don't know if this is the time, there may be some time that we could use to see if we could get the issue to me is not whether I'd really like to do lighting. I'd love to do lighting. The issue here is whether the county can get into maintaining it as part of the process. If we can get solar, it's kind of in some people's mind, it's kind of a less maintenance type of thing. You don't pay, you pay for the pole, you put it up, and then you replace the batteries or the whatever they call. But I mean, it's a project that I didn't take out. I kept it in there. I said, okay, well, let's put it on third place and see if we have any money and do it. It's just the priority seems to be a problem with supervisors, which is fine. I mean, that's what we have a meeting for. And I don't want for him to believe that this is just dismissing the argument. It isn't. It is an argument that's worth taking on.
No,
doing.
I totally agree. I mean, I just see even at number 2, but there is certain lights on 5th Street. Should we find out who pays for that maintenance?
Let me tell you, it was $20 million that came through the, whatever was it, the Emergency Act that created the Colonia and put in sewer and water in it. It's not like we haven't spent money on the Colonia. The county spent, what, $18 million, $20 million? I mean, you weren't here, but some of us that were here. We spent, Nancy was here. How much money did we spend on the Colonias, Nancy? In that BNC Colonia?
The sewer project was 23 million.
Okay, so how much money have we spent? More than $23 million in that Colonia area.
We also spend, I believe, close to $1 million on housing rehab.
So let's say that we spend 24 million in that area. I'm surprised that other areas haven't come up and said, hey, wait a minute. But because it was a very specific time frame for a very specific opportunity. But I do want to emphasize, it isn't like we haven't spent money on that area that you can point to. It's this money that I believe now there's a thought process that we need to consider, and that is investing it the way cities do, which is in specific areas to impact specific people. They have to qualify. BNC Colonia will qualify. It's just the lighting part. If this was a lift station, if this was a water treatment plant, this would be a lot easier for me because, we go ahead and make the improvements and the city of Yuma takes over and they will manage it. It's like Gadsden. Gadsden had $5 million worth of sewer system installed. They paid for it through an improvement district and through a grant from Farmers Home, USDA. But the city of San Luis takes care of their sewage refuse. I mean, it's a delicate thing that we walk through here. Again, I have no problem with leaving the BNC Colonia, but I think that we need to make a decision whether we're going to assume the responsibility for it or wait, create an improvement district and actually do the whole Colonia, not just 5th Street, whatever streets there are. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that area anymore.
And I think that's something that we can, look into. I mean, if there's some areas that already did it on their own, I mean, there's certain residents there that are very involved and want to help. I mean, there's times that not even the sheriff will go through that. I mean, it's true. I mean,
I've been down there. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And that's, to leave a area of the county, depleted or just leave it on their own. That's not us. That we're not here for that. We need to look out for the community, the low income. This is what this money is what it's for. Low income and slum and blight, to get rid of that. Make those areas that look better, try to improve those areas that people can, see and say, well, maybe this is not bad. I should get into, get out of trouble and eliminate and help this area. That's my thing. I just see what we've been giving the money to, because we can add up. The county has helped the BNC Colonia, but we can go back and look at all the nonprofit organizations, how much money the county has given to them, and that'll add to millions. That's just my saying.
Well, Mr. Chair and Martin, I don't have a problem with putting in the lighting. I have a problem with a cost.
There's always a cost. There's always going to be a cost for anything. I mean,
Not after
County
the,
is
not after
shrinking,
the,
and it seems like we're growing in staff. So it's always gonna be a cost for something.
the maintenance and operation of it is my
You'd be
concern.
surprised how much, what load.
Let me ask a
of the maintenance
technical
will be.
question, a legal question. Do we have any instance where we're paying for something that isn't a district? I mean, maybe because we have a gift clause that I'm always very aware. But do we have anywhere that we're paying for something for an area that's specific to that area and only that area alone? Because I mean, I know we maintain Old County right-of-ways, we do all these sort of things, but do we pay for a street lighting system somewhere that isn't paid to an improvement district? Just a question, because this is the first time, I've been here 23 years now. This is the first time I've heard of us in the county simply saying, oh, well, let's put this up and then we'll pay for the maintenance for this specific area, which is exactly the opposite of what the argument is. We should go help the low and middle income. But the problem is, once you go that route, that's a big change in terms of the philosophies of the county. So I want to know, have we done it before that I can remember? Nancy, have we done it before? Do we do something like that somewhere? Because it would help.
My understanding is the county will pay for any cost with county roadways. So your county road, if there's lighting, somebody has to pay for the cost. And so I assume the county pays. County does pay a substantial amount to APS. I couldn't tell you which road is. Fifth Street can be considered a main thoroughfare. Is the only street that crosses between B and C from 1st to 8th. So
your answer is you don't know.
So it's a major thoroughfare, yes?
Frank.
There's engineering.
Wait, let me ask then a question. Is this in county right away? The lighting?
Fifth Street is county right away, Mr. Chairman.
That's it, that's the answer. If it's county right away, then we pay for it.
Oh, okay.
We just have to assume that that's going to be a maintenance cost.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, past direction from the board was direction given to staff was to install street lights on arterial 5-lane roadways with sidewalk. Those are the only currently those are the only streets that we implement street lightings on.
Does this fit?
No, this is just a 2-lane roadway.
Very narrow 2-lane.
Very narrow. So if street lights are going to be installed, then you're probably looking into acquiring some right of way also to put in street lights. I'm sorry?
Not wide enough.
It's not wide enough. There's some sections in there that we only have 20
Frank,
feet of right
I
of
think
way.
that the philosophy behind the request, is fine. It's something that we should consider. Maybe this isn't the right one, or maybe it isn't ripe enough yet, or maybe there hasn't been enough research done to make this happen. But I can see where there come a time when somebody would say, well, it's time to start spending it on county residents. County residents are not city residents. They're not, City of Somerton, City of San Luis, county residents. And maybe that's a place we're going. This may not be the way to get to it. It's a little complicated. I don't know. I think it's in the county.
It's all B and C, it's county.
County Island.
Yeah, the city won't take it in.
Yeah, I know. I have a few of those.
We did the sewer and the water, but did we do water? Yeah. Susan, did we do water in the BNC Colonia? Nancy? Oh, you came up. This is it.
yeah, they already had water. They were already on city water.
So they're now on city sewer.
Now they're on city sewer. Yes.
The city doesn't just want the problem, so they want,
At the time when we did the sewer project, they waived the pre-annexation requirement simply because the amount of infrastructure issues in that area. So they decided annexation of that area prior to some of those improvements would be too costly for the city. So they waived it at that time.
And
That doesn't change the fact that we like to do something for them.
Mr. Chair, and just, you know, what Frank said is, the county will provide at the county's expense, the lighting on 5, certain streets or roads. This one, we're getting a grant, so we're still paying for the maintenance on those lights, the ones that we have. And it's, if you really look into it, it's not really that much. Or if it's only 10 lights.
Well, let me do something that's going to make us get out of this quickly, okay? Because it is. I get the philosophy behind it. I get it. This may not be the project, but I get the philosophy behind it. The statements that you made already, such as right-of-way acquisition, things like maintenance, whether it's solar, whether it's APS, those issues aren't been addressed. And maybe if you address them for the next time you come up, you'll come up with the fact that $200,000 aren't going to get you anywhere if you have to buy right away. So let's get to the point of whether it is a doable project, because when you bring it up and you put in a tag on it like this, it makes it seem like a doable project, because it's one of the suggestions. I know it came up on the hearings, but let's do a little more research on it and see if it's a doable. If it's a doable project at $200,000, $250,000, I may go with it. You know, it really. But I see many things, many hoops to be jumped through to make sure that this is a doable project. I see issues with narrow streets with street lights because people run into them. You know, I see safety issues. I see other kinds of issues. And I'm not trying to figure out ways not to do it. I'm trying to figure out really how much it's going to cost. Because if it's going to cost $100,000, we need to make a decision and say, well, this is the only project we're going to do because of the cost. Now, I want to make sure that we here understand one thing. One of the things that we're not doing is we're not saying, okay, we're only going to do county projects. That we're not saying that. We're saying to people, what do you want? What do you need? Where do you want to do this? I want to make, I think I'm right when I say that, right? Yeah. And so what we want to do is, there's a question here from one of the supervisors, a point that is made that maybe we ought to focus a little bit more on doing projects that impact people directly and that are county residents directly. I think the point is well made. This may not be the project, but it could be the project. So please bring it up a little, flesh it out a little bit more, bring it to us, and let's see if we can do it. Because if we can do it, I'd be supportive.
And I totally agree. I mean, obviously, if we need to spend more money on right away or something, maybe, yeah, we look at it. But I think we should, this should be a start to what you just said. Let's start looking at really this money to invest it back
Specifically
into areas,
in some areas.
That really gonna benefit the area within that there. You know, low income and slum and blight.
Well, I think,
another comment.
Oh, sure.
like I said, I'm for the ADA because that's going to benefit a large community out in the foothills. As far as the park, if the money's not there for the 5th Street, because I know how bad that is out there. It is very dark. It's scary at times. But if we can't do it this time, maybe we need to look over the next 2 years, do an improvement, get an improvement district formed. And then when we get back 2 years from now.
And get ready to do it.
Use, okay, we have an improvement district. Now we've got the funding to implement this.
I like that.
And make it happen. And then they've already got the something in place to help fund it, maintain it, and keep it up.
Look, I had a problem with the Yuma County Housing Rehab Program. You remember that, but I said, wait a minute.
Mr. Chair, and to that point, what about putting in, can engineering put in stop signs on 5th Street? Could we do, I know there has to be justification for it, all that kind of stuff. But
I think we're beginning.
If we put in stop signs, that would help slow down that traffic.
It's not slight.
Chairman Reyes, Supervisor Pancrezi, stop signs are not meant to slow traffic down. And that's the #1 rule. And even the MUTC, the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, specifically says a stop sign should not be used for speed control, because people go through. People will realize that they're stopping for no reason, and they start running the stop signs.
Okay. Well, can we see if they qualify for speed bumps?
And that's definitely an option.
Okay.
Speed bumps. Well, and 2 on 5th Street, if I remember right, it's not so much as street cross traffic. There's so many there's so many alleys, there's so many driveways, there's so many RV parks along that street. It's not really a street that's the problem. It's all the entry points onto Fifth.
We gotta
And
start a
it's all the
petition to get
people
them
who
annexed to the
park
city of Yuma.
On the
On the
side.
site, instead of in parking. Okay.
Be the best solution. Just get them annexed to the city of Yuma. We almost got them.
Mr. Chairman, can we direct staff to see if they could?
Well, I don't think
check
this
and
is
see
the
if
place. I mean, I think that you brought it up. This is Colonia speed bumps. So yes, we could use this as an opportunity to get to the point where we deal with whatever issues there are on Fifth Street. And there are safety issues, there are lighting issues, there are other issues, and issues like how do we annex them to the city of Yuma? How do we do a lot of stuff? There are a lot of issues out there. I mean, the city of Yuma can't refuse to that long in there.
They have to
Mr. Chair, I think we leave A as it is. We move B to C and C to B. And I know it's not gonna be enough money for all of it, but at least it's a start. And then maybe we can get all the full background of this, what we need for right of way, what areas, how many street lights are we gonna have there? There is some there already.
But Supervisor Puches, that's what they suggested, and that's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
No,
One,
but
two, three.
yeah, that's what you said, but you never said that, about the
focus,
money.
focus.
That's, at least that's my way of thinking with this money from now
In other
on.
words, don't put it in like
I'm
if
not
you
gonna-
have enough
If it
money.
does cost more, it gives us
So
2
number
years to
one
get
would
an
be
improvement
A, Catholic Community Services. Number two would be the Foothills Park, ADA Park. Number three would be the BNC Colonia lighting, after more
review,
research,
yeah.
of course. And then number four would be the housing rehabilitation program.
Yeah, and let's not leave the discussion about the BNC Colonial lighting as a single issue. There are safety issues. There are many issues that we need to deal with in that area. It's like we need to deal with the areas in Orange Grove and Besa Verde, places like that. We need to start dealing with that. And maybe this is one way. And I think that's what I took from the conversation, that we should start looking at those areas that need assistance, specific areas, and try to use some of this money. Instead of use it in a general way, use it in a more focused way, like we're doing it with the Foothills ADA.
Yeah.
It's a more focused way.
And Mr. Chairman, too, as far as the speed cushions on Fifth Street, we have a fund that we set aside to address just those type of issues. If I remember right, we started a fund that I think it's got like 150,000 each year to address speed issues throughout the county.
Yeah, and that's what they said,
Yeah,
so they'll
so-
do through the HERF funds or something to.
Yeah, so
But
we've
that's
got.
that's all you need today, right? Just a general direction, right? Yeah. Because you still got to do hearings. You
We
still
still
got to
have to
make
go
sure
back
that
and do our research and conduct the second public hearing where, you
And
agree
you
with the
said
project.
Nancy's going to remain? Is that what you said? For a while until you see this project done? No?
I think she's telling you with the look.
Yeah. Nancy, could you be a consultant? No, look, if there is something that I can tell you right now, is the county has gone over the last 23 years through a transformation. We didn't do projects, we didn't do Cdbg projects, and when we started doing them, some of them were huge, like the BNC Colonia, and I think if it hadn't been for someone like Nancy at the helm, we wouldn't have been able to get through some of them. So I just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to say that publicly, Nancy. Most of this stuff, the argument that we're having right now, we wouldn't have if it wasn't because of people like you. So I just wanted you to know that and acknowledge that before you leave us for, I guess, greener pastures or something like that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll be here for the next board meeting, so.
Oh, you want me to do it again, huh?
Yes.
All right, so you do have the ranking, and the emphasis now is to try to see what we can do to make the BNC Colonial Lighting Project happen. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. I started to sound like Elvis Presley. Thank you very much. Let's move on, if we can. The Deputy County Administrator, Ian McGuff, will provide an overview of the Yuma County Organizational Culture Initiative last 12 months and preview of phase 2 of the initiative, which has already recently begun. Okay, well,
Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ian McGahey, Deputy County Administrator. For the past 2 years, the county's executive leadership team, which includes the department division directors reporting to administration, has been involved in a leadership development program designed to increase leadership skills, communication, and collaboration. So just over a year ago, this team embarked on a core culture initiative to intentionally shape Yuma County's organizational culture and support the strategic plan. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So first off, what is organizational culture and why is it important? The Society for Human Resource Management says that the key to a successful organization is to have a culture based on a strongly held and widely shared set of beliefs that's supported by strategy and structure. So having a strong culture allows for enhanced trust, cooperation, more efficient decision-making, and a shared understanding about what's important. In September 2020, the county began working on its organizational culture development initiative with Dr. Maria Church of Government Leadership Solutions. The first 12-month phase of the project was set with the goal to strategically and intentionally develop Yuma County's core culture. The effort was facilitated through monthly meetings of the executive leadership team. The majority of those were held by Zoom due to the pandemic. Representatives from elected offices were invited to participate in phase one, and Carolyn Marquez from the school superintendent's office joined in the discussions. This graphic summarizes the process, starting with the assessment of the current organizational culture and then moving through the steps to identify and refine what our desired core culture is, followed by developing a plan to align and implement that core culture into the organization and integrate it with the county's strategic plan. This graphic showcases what Dr. Church calls the intentional culture model. At its center is the core culture, which was drilled down into 3 facets. The why. Why do people work for Yuma County? That led to uncovering the POV, or point of view, which is essentially how we do our why. And drilling down even more, we discussed our non-negotiable values. And here's the result of all of that, what we call our culture map. This contains the why, the how, and the 3 non-negotiable values. And I will take a moment to read these. Our why, together for a thriving community. Our how and point of view, leading together with innovation to meet community needs. And our non-negotiable values. Integrity, true to self. I am honest, transparent, and accountable to customers and coworkers. Commitment, true to team. I work with customers and coworkers to the best of my ability every day to make Yuma County better. And dedicated service, true to community. I give my best each day to anticipate and respond to the ever-changing needs of our community. Returning to the intentional culture model graphic. So once the why, how, and 3 non-negotiable values were identified, the executive leadership team went to work discovering how to implement this culture throughout the organization by performing an alignment audit. That audit helped us see what areas of the organization we were already excelling and what areas were out of alignment with that desired core culture and could use improvement. The team looked at internal behaviors and practices, including recruitment, training, performance management, and more. External behaviors and practices, including how we serve and interact with the public. The political environment, including building trust and improving positive perceptions in the county. And our physical presence, or how we show up in the community, which includes things such as how our buildings look, how we appear, and how well we reach the public. So discussions of all those goals resulted in the formulation of a high-level plan to further align our organization with the aspirations. This plan is made up of 17 goals designed to bring the areas that need attention into alignment with our core culture. Now, I won't read all the 17 goals, but I'll read the top 5, which have been prioritized. Goal number 1, develop and or update county employee recruitment, development, selection, and retention strategies within 24 months to acquire and keep the best candidates for every position, resulting in an overall vacancy rate of less than 5%. Goal number 2, create a policy document that lays out the how the why, the how, and the values of Yuma County within 12 months. Goal number 3, annually ensure all employees receive and or participate in professional development training in alignment with the county's strategic plan. Number 4, develop and launch an upgrade to the county's website, including a customer request and response system and intranet to enhance service to our external and internal customers by December 31st, 2022.
Yeah, just stop you for a minute. I know you're on a roll, but what is our vacancy rate right now?
It varies from month to month between 11% and 14%.
Okay, that's it. I didn't know what you come up with, why you came up with a percentage. I wasn't aware that we had such a high vacancy rate. And retention, obviously, is an issue if you have that high. Is it retention or vacancy? Is it new positions or well, we don't hire many new people, so it's got to be just turnover. It happens.
Yeah.
They go someplace else and we have vacancies. Okay.
And finally, goal number 5, the county will use the annual budget process as a means to proactively reach out to the community with citizen meetings in each supervisor's district to enhance transparency and public engagement in the spring of each year. So that's where phase 1 of the organizational culture initiative ended and where phase 2 began. So phase 2 kicked off at the end of September with 24 of Yuma County's next level leaders. They were joined by the executive leadership team who was acting in a mentoring role during this phase. The phase 2 participants divided themselves into 5 groups for the purpose of tackling the 17 goals outlined in phase 1. Each group have started working on one of those top 5 priority goals, and once they complete a goal, they'll move on to the next one. This photo shows group number 2, and I was acting as an advisor to the group, which is why I'm in that screenshot. In addition to tackling the goals to help bring all areas of the organization into alignment with the core culture, phase 2 participants receive leadership training in the form of leadership nuggets as part of each monthly work session. These nuggets include topics such as effective communication, goal setting, giving and receiving feedback, developing vision, and more. Phase 2 continues into early August when the groups will make their final presentations on their goals and action plans, and we'll be sure to keep you updated on that. And finally, at the end of phase 2, a core culture alignment survey will be sent out to county employees to gauge the impact of the process over the past 2 years. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up, Supervisor.
That's okay. Mr. Chair, Ian, how does this align with the comprehensive plan? I'm looking at, doesn't the comprehensive plan do a lot of this already? Is it going to be incorporated into the comprehensive plan?
Thank you for that question. In fact, one of the groups, and it's group number 2, is working on ways to integrate this culture initiative with our strategic plan to coordinate where it falls amongst the pillars and to make sure there's unity between the 2 efforts.
Could it just not be incorporated into the comprehensive plan and only have one thing?
So you're speaking of the comprehensive plan that's done in the planning and zoning department for the public, or are you talking about the strategic plan?
Laws and guidelines 2020 comprehensive plan.
Yeah, the 2020 comprehensive plan is based around mostly land use and future development. And this is more about our organizational culture and the employees that provide service to the public and making sure that we're providing the best service in line with our values to provide effective governance and operational excellence to the community. So this is more internally focused, and the comprehensive plan is externally focused on our development and the growth of the community.
Okay. So there's not going to be a conflict between which one?
No, this is, so the comprehensive plan is how the community grows and develops and what the board's priorities are with that growth in the area of housing, in the area of open space, in the area of parks, a wide variety of areas in the comprehensive plan. This organizational culture and our strategic plan are internally focused on how we provide services to the public.
Okay.
So they're not in conflict, but one supports our ability to do the other.
So this will be incorporated into our strategic plan?
Customer service.
Yeah.
Customer service, got it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, please, any questions are welcome. And I'm almost done. A survey was conducted at the beginning of phase one and at the end of phase one. And so together with the survey done at the end of phase two, it'll provide useful data on where we've improved and then what areas still may need attention as part of the county's continuous improvement efforts. And last slide. The Core Culture Initiative has had many positive outcomes, even as the work to bring targeted areas into alignment continues. Significant benefit of the process was the engagement with directors across different divisions and departments to help improve communication and foster a better understanding of what we do on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes we found that even though our duties may initially have seemed quite different, we have more in common than we initially realized. So the process has strengthened the ability to work as a team and underscore that all employees have a process and a role in making Yuma County a great place to work and in making a real and positive difference in our community. So that's it, Mr. Chairman. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Did you explain that process up to this point? Part of this presentation was to tell us what's going to happen next, right? Or are you just simply saying, have we gotten to this point and
Correct.
next step
So phase two is actively involved and doing their monthly meetings, and in August, when they make their final presentations on their goals and their initiatives, we can report back to the board and update you at that
So
point.
pardon the old age thing here, but how many phases are you guys going to go through? Phase one, phase two, phase three?
Phase one, yep, and then phase two started in September of 2021 and will go through August of 2020.
You don't have a,
The end product will be, well, as Ian mentioned, the 17 goals that these groups are working on, we'll actually have a goal and implementation plan that then we'll be bringing forward to actually achieve those goals.
so what's the difference between that and a strategic plan, internal and strategic plan? I mean, I know we talk about the other plan, which is the outside plan, the development plan, but what about the strategic plan?
Well, the goals through this process will be incorporated into the strategic plan, because every year we update the strategic plan with new initiatives, or if we've completed an initiative, then we take that off the strategic plan.
So it is going to be part of the strategic
Yes,
plan.
it is going to be part of the strategic.
All right, okay. Any other questions? I mean, we'll get a report, I'm sure. It's getting a little thick layered here, but yeah, get it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ian. So the next, we do have an addendum. We're going to leave that to the end so that we can clear the place and we talk about some legal stuff. So the next item in the agenda is discussion regarding legislative issues, and this is a presentation and possible discussion regarding state, federal, and international legislative updates, which may include status of bills impacting Yuma County timelines and compensation of the legislature's redistricting and legislative strategies and priorities. Action is limited to discussion only. However, the Board of Supervisors may provide direction for staff for future agenda items. Why is there that limitation? Why couldn't we just put it as an action item? Because, if we want to make decisions on the presentation, we have to be more specific. Is that what it is, Bill? If we've got to take action, we have to have it listed in the agenda as an action item? But I'm trying to get at that last statement, which is limited to discussion only. However, the Board of Supervisors might provide direction. Well, we can always provide direction, but why isn't it possible to take action on an item that's run? For example, legislative issues. If we had to be specific, is that what it boils down to for the agenda item?
If there's a specific item you want to take action on, I suppose you could list it. You're not aware of that at this point, so it's more of a discussion item.
Right. Well, that's going to be your next step, Alejandro. You may have to take your mask off because I don't think Mr. Supervisor Lyons recognizes you. He's got a point to make. So,
Mr. Chairman, we can work with the wording as we go now that things are moving a little quicker, and they may have more ideas of things that'll be
you
coming
need to
up.
start working on sort of listing the items you may need action on, as a line item. You have your own little agenda, or I wouldn't call it little agenda, but you would have your agenda in there of items that you may need decisions on, because if you don't list them as items, if it's that broad, it may be that the only thing we can do is give you direction. And for example, when we say write a letter of support or something, it's just direction. But if it takes action from the board, you need to list it up as an action item in there, okay?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, members of the board. Happy New Year. I'll be glad to look into that. And the reason I developed this update from my predecessor is that it was very limited to what happened to the state. But since the state legislature has not been in operating lately, or it's not in session, then I've had to include other items into the same update.
No, and to be blunt about it, your job-specific items have the range is just broadened up so much that you may need some action items that you need to, again, get some decisions on for this year, for example. Now that the legislature is in session, you may have something specific that you want us to take a position on that needs to be listed in the agenda so that we can actually take action, okay? Right.
I'll start with the state update. So starting January the 1st, Arizona's minimum wage went up from $12.15 to $12.80 an hour. Arizona will have the 5th highest minimum wage among the states in 2020, trailing only California, Massachusetts, New York, and New Jersey, according to a list compiled by the Labor Law Center. Minimum wages will increase in 26 states in 2022. The higher wage for 2022, as mandated by state voters in 2016, reflects a 5.3% rise in the U.S. Consumer Price Index over the 12 months through August 2021. So moving on to the legislative timeline, January the 10th, as you know, will be when the legislative session starts, and Governor Ducey will do his State of the State. Then on Friday, January 14th, the governor will be releasing the executive budget proposal. And you can go through the timeline and see that on April 19th, that's when they're going to have their 100-day of session. We're not sure if they're going to stick to 100 days. It's most likely going to go well beyond that.
Here.
The Arizona's Independent Redistricting Commission unanimously approved the final drafts of the congressional and legislative maps on December 22nd. The new maps will be sent to the Secretary of State's office, where they will be certified and used for the 2022 election cycle. So I grabbed the county by county or district, congressional district. And Yuma County will be split on Congressional District 7, as you can see on this picture. And I'll be sharing district with Maricopa County, Pinal County, Pima County, and Santa Cruz County, and actually Cochise County as well.
So how did that work? Did it work the way it was before? We have 3 representatives on one side and 3 representatives on the other side? Is that the way it worked?
No,
This is the congressional one.
Oh, this is the congressional.
We haven't got to those yet.
And this will be Congressional District number 9, which is, as the chairman had mentioned before, the River District. We share this with La Paz, Maricopa, and Mojave County. And I apologize, it's a little bit blurry, but that's the best quality image I could get from the website. This is the legislative districts. On this one, Yuma County has been split again into 2. This is District 23. We're going to be sharing the district with Maricopa County, Pinal County, and Pima County. And it seems that our efforts with the IRC worked, along with the City of Yuma, and we're going to stay close or attached to, linked to other rural communities like Buckeye, Arizona, in Maricopa County for District 25. So if you remember last time I presented this, we had another river, quote unquote, river district. But the IRC changed that, and they called it a Yuma Gold Map. Moving on to the federal update.
Still have 2 U.S. senators, right?
We do.
We do.
We do. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security authorized U.S. Customs and Border Protection to continue construction activities and remediation requirements in unfinished sections of the new border wall in Arizona, California, and Texas. Some of the work involves closing construction access gaps in the Tucson, El Paso, and Yuma Border Patrol sectors to address safety concerns. Other activities will involve flood and erosion prevention. On the international front, on December 27, 2021, the Mexican port of entry at San Luis Rio Colorado went back to a 24-hour operation once again. And on January the 1st, Mexico's daily minimum wage went up 22%. So the new daily minimum wage in northern Mexico is about $13 a day and $8.60 in the rest of the country. And that would be my update for today, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other questions you have, Alejandro? I think it's going to get busy. There's an upcoming, in February, I think, NACO, I hate to say it, NACO, but, National Association of Counties legislative meeting in Washington, D.C. I know, Susan, you're not scheduled to go, is that right? All right, so you're going to go, and I think some of the board members are going to be going out there. We need to prep a little. We haven't done it in person for a couple of years now. We probably need to have some sort of an agenda preliminary to that and some sort of issues that, some talking points. So start, just getting that together because time comes really fast. I think it's at the beginning of February, somewhere around the 12th, 13th of February. So
middle of the month.
Yeah, so it's just a couple of meetings from now. So let's start getting ready for some of the issues that we're going to be pursuing when we go there. Talking points, issues. Yeah, notes. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything else? All right. No, Alejandro, thank you. All right. The events calendar and current events. I mean, Supervisor Simmons spooked this meeting, saying it was going to be a short meeting. I think we still can achieve it, but
we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. So we'll start, with a brief presentation of current events attended or to be attended. We'll start with Supervisor Pancras.
The only thing I really attended was I came by to wish Ginger a very happy retirement, and then I attended the special session we had. Other than that, it was all Christmas stuff, family.
You?
Even shorter. No, met with a couple of constituents and then met with the college and had a couple of conversations with the governor's office on moving forward with what we've authorized.
All right. Supervisor Simmons?
Attended a Walton Town Council meeting, had a Zoom meeting with myself, George, Amaya, and Craig Zellers. Had a Zoom meeting with ADEQ.
That didn't sound right. You had a Zoom meeting with yourself?
No, well, myself, George, and Craig had a Zoom meeting with ADEQ, reference some issues in the foothills. Had a special BOS meeting and met with a couple of constituents. That's about it.
Supervisor Bushes?
Not much, just, being busy.
Just tamales,
Kept
just
busy
tamales.
with Christmas and the holidays, but I do want to say I was at on the meeting on the 27th, and I was muted. Someone muted me, or
It wasn't
I was
me.
hearing everybody.
It was Tony.
Well, actually, I just
It was
I just heard Tony.
No, it wasn't. I tried, but I didn't know. We were trying to get you in somehow.
Yeah.
I was on the phone.
Yeah.
That 920.
Yeah, he's gonna make us pay for that. Anyway, a couple of announcements. One is that we had a meeting with the WAHAD executive board. We basically voted to dissolve it. So it should, the process is ongoing right now. I mean, it's an issue that we may take up one of these meetings as a report, but basically we're going through the process of dissolving that. Had a couple of meetings with the health department in regards to just the COVID issue and the hospital situation. I mean, that's been an ongoing thing for at least the last 2-3 couple of weeks. To deal with that publicly, a couple of interviews, and I've seen more snow than I care to see in the rest of 22 probably until December. Again, I was out in Flagstaff in the Grand Canyon between the Christmas and I was visiting fellow constituents over there. But I had a lot of, that was a lot of snow. So that kept me busy. So Susan, you're next.
Between the last couple of meetings, I've attended the Chamber of Commerce bird meeting. We have learned that the air show for 2022 is being canceled. We had, the newspaper did cover the county as well as the other cities in the year in review, kind of the highlights of 2021. And I know that COVID was a big issue for the county, especially with the health department, and our health department has performed extremely well. And one item of note coming up is that you're going to have good representation at our Arizona City County Management Association. Ian's on a panel. I'm facilitating a panel, and Diana Gomez will be on a panel for our city and county to learn more about how we do things down in the border counties. And so we're looking forward to giving those presentations. And that's all I have.
Right. We do have an executive addendum meeting notice. And for that, I'm going to say it, we're going to go into executive session. We're going to ask people to sort of leave the area so that we can conduct an executive meeting and probably shut down the feed, the cable feed.